Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Let's crack on with the Corbyn conversation. I like this. This is James. This is what I want you to do, says John in Romford. Close your eyes. Picture Tony Blair with his flash suit and his cheeky smile. Then put that on Jeremy Corbyn and listen to the message. You should know, play the ball, not the man. Listen to the message. It's the same message that you have been spouting for years. John, again, like a lot of you, suggesting that I should be a fully paid up member of the Jeremy Corbyn fan club. And I understand why. He thinks that Labour is winning and ready for a general election fight. Possibly part of the reason I'm not a fully paid up member of the fan club is because to me that's borderline delusional. But I want to dedicate the last hour of the programme this week looking back at the last year of politics and forward to the next year of politics. And I just wonder whether you think Corbyn can crack it. Can he break through? It is not an exaggeration to say that the political landscape has been completely rewritten this year and may continue to get rewritten next year. A lot of the pressure is coming from the far right, but not all of it. An awful lot of people who voted for Trump, who is sort of essentially a kind of comic book man-baby fascist, but a lot of people who voted for him were drawn to Bernie Sanders. They weren't dyed-in-the-wool Republicans. They liked Bernie Sanders' message. It was when Trump managed to harness the two populist notions, the one being blaming foreigners for all our problems, the other being we can give dignity and money back to ordinary people. So you get both of those up and running, you potentially become unstoppable. There's no prospect whatsoever of Jeremy Corbyn going down the blame immigrants or blame foreigners, blame Muslims or Mexicans for all our problems. But if he can harness the other bit of it, the other bit of the Bernie Sanders anti-capitalist almost, anti-globalization, anti-big business, anti-vested interests, anti-establishment, whatever you want to call it, if he can pull that off, then he's got a chance perhaps of doing something. But I want you to tell me whether or not you think Corbyn actually might crack it in 2017. 0345 6060 973. Because unfortunately, it seems to me to be an unclimbable mountain. How does it appear to you? Richard is in Harpenden. You can kick us off on this one. Richard, what do you want to say?
Oh, hi, James. Yeah, this is my first time calling in.
You're very welcome. Make it a good one. Make it a Christmas cracker, Richard.
Will do. Happy Christmas as well, by the way.
Same to you.
Yeah, so just kicking off on the Corbyn thing, there's a few things. I think it's quite funny because I think you're sort of correct on two notions. Like with globalisation, you're correct, and there's been this huge anti-globalisation move, whereas you're also correct, which is, Corbyn doesn't really stand much chance in winning. And one thing that sort of makes me sort of laugh is that you're very, all of our services need more investment, they all need more money, and all of these things are good things. They're all populist ideas that require money. The main thing I would put across to you, which is, if you think about the population of, like, say, there's 500 million in Europe, there's 350 million in America.
I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I'd rather talk about Jeremy Corbyn than me.
Yeah, so
if that's all right.
Yeah, no, that's
I'm not going to be running for office next year.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Dave. But I mean, the main thing I'm getting at is there's 7 billion people in the world, and we're in the richest 1 billion. And Jeremy Corbyn wants to come along, and his plans involve, spending 500 billion, spending more on the NHS, spending more on all of these things. We're already at 90%, we'll be getting to 90% debt to GDP soon, which George Osborne said would be something that would be unfeasible or, wreak great havoc to our economy, as it were. So the thing is that if we're already in the richest 1 billion, of the world's population, what gives us the right to say, oh, we're going to have this socialist utopia? And
I know, Richard, you've completely lost me. I apologise. I know it's your first time, and it's not a norm. So, are you just saying that a bit like I hear quite often, Jeremy Corbyn has got all these plans, he won't be able to pay for them?
But essentially that. But
okay, no, I understand that, but
underlines every part of his entire argument. if you can't afford it.
Yes, but we're talking about this in the context of what's happened in America. And Donald Trump has made promises that are absolutely ludicrous and impossible to keep. Winning an election has nothing to do really with the plausibility of your policies. It has everything to do with the plausibility of your persona, whether or not you are electable. And the idea that we could probably raise a little bit more money in tax from all those billionaires that you just described, instead of hitting people living in council houses who've got the audacity of having an empty bedroom, I could make that sing. I reckon I could get that up on a platform.
The problem,
and all parties promise they're going to spend more. They all promise that. No one ever promises to spend less. That's the biggest lie of all. We're going to spend more and cut taxes. That's Donald Trump in a nutshell, Richard.
Well, what I would say, though, is that even on the highest estimates, and that's if you could really stop completely all tax evasion and, all tax avoidance, as it were, that's still only about 150 billion, say. And if you...
Well, again, you've kind of plucked that figure out of the sky, because the other alternative would be to tax high earners more than we currently do, which, of course, this government reversed that. But there's all sorts of things he could do. But I'm not actually, oddly, doing this like a textbook, because if you are popular enough, charismatic enough, you can actually persuade people of anything. I'd love to see a charismatic popular, someone who, and by populist I mean someone who speaks for all ordinary people, doesn't try and split ordinary people down the middle and say, well, I'll speak for these ones, I'll speak for the male ones, or the white ones, or the black ones, or the brown ones, but I won't speak for everyone. Populist in the purest sense of the word, which is putting ordinary people ahead of, if you will, the elites. Then it'd be fascinating to see what happened. It kind of happened in Greece, didn't end well. Spain looked like it was flirting with it for a while. I'd just be interested to see it, but in the context of Corbyn's electability, it's not going to have anything to do with the sums. It's going to have everything to do with the personalities. Matthew's in Folkestone. Matthew, what do you think?
Hi, James. Nice to talk to you again, and Merry Christmas. What I'm wanting to say is I very much doubt he will get elected. I do support him. I think, unfortunately, a part of it is when he rose to power in the Labour Party, he was lambasted by New Labour and the fraternity of New Labour, and the media, particularly the franchises owned by Rupert Murdoch, lambasted him, and he was in the news every day.
He's very easy to lambast. He cuts a slightly ridiculous figure.
No, the thing there is, like, whenever he was lambasted, his supporters, critically analysed what was said, and it was demonstrable nonsense what the media was saying.
Well, no, he pretended he couldn't find a seat on a train when he could. It's not critically analysing anything, mate. That's the behaviour of a cretin.
Well, from what I understand, there were reservations which he couldn't occupy.
No.
I mean, no, is that wrong?
Yes, that's completely wrong.
Okay, I mean,
even under his own analysis, he couldn't find a seat. He couldn't find enough seats for them all to sit together, which might be true. Okay, but that means there were seats. So you don't release a picture saying I'm sitting on the floor because the train service is so bad. You release a picture saying I'm sitting on the floor because it's the only way I can hold hands with my wife, or it's the only way I can stay with my team. You don't lie to the public.
Well, I mean, clearly,
but you blame the media for it, not him.
Are you saying Jeremy Corbyn is the first person ever to, first politician ever to be fraudulent and misrepresent?
No, mate, I'm saying the precise opposite. You've rung in to say he's a breath of fresh air. I've just demonstrated to you, as you've ended up saying it yourself, coming out of your own mouth, he's just like all the rest of them, which is part of the problem. But you keep swallowing the Kool-Aid. Jeremy Corbyn, Labour is winning and ready for a general election fight. Okay, just your thoughts on that. Just your thoughts, straight up, hand on heart. Because Mike is, I think, speaking for a lot of people when he describes himself as a lifelong Labour supporter. But, is it Mike? I've lost the text now. Lifelong Labour supporter, but for me, Corbyn is like a Christmas cracker with no... It was Tony. I'm a lifelong Labour voter, and for me, Jeremy Corbyn is the Christmas cracker that doesn't bang. So much promise and then nothing, really. I want positive voices as well. Andy is in Bracknell. Andy, what do you reckon?
Well, I think, frankly, Corbyn's got a more immediate problem than a general election.
This is Jamie Reid's seat up in Cumbria.
Yeah, southern end of the seat
Yorkshire,
is
Copeland and West Yorkshire.
Cumbria. It's the one on the left as you look at it.
So it's Copeland and West Yorkshire is the seat?
No, Copeland in Cumbria is the seat.
It's called Copeland and West Yorkshire.
It isn't.
That's what I'm just reading now. I'm happy to be corrected by you.
Wrong. It's on the coast of Cumbria.
No, I'm not having an argument with you. I'm just reading out the Independent. I'm sure they've made a mistake.
They have. Yes, that's one. But no points. southern end of the constituency, largely commuter belt out of Barrow,
Yes.
where they build, or will be building, the Trident boats, which Corbyn opposes.
Oh, wow, I hadn't thought of that.
Northern end of the constituency is the site of the proposed new nuclear station at the north side of Sellafield, Moorside. 5,000 jobs at least, 10 billion investment. Corbyn's against nuclear new build.
It's going to be quite an easy one then for the Conservatives to push back into his park, isn't it?
One would think so. I mean, to be honest, I think it's going to be a fight between UKIP and Labour for third. It's also 62% pro-Brexit.
Yes.
Now, if he loses a seat like that...
Which has never, ever, ever not been Labour since it was founded. I hesitate to say these facts, given that I've just read out such a big mistake. 1982, wasn't it?
1932.
32.
The predecessor seat has never, ever been a Labour seat. Sorry, never, ever been a non-Labour seat.
Wow.
I don't think he'd... Well...
Why not? Why not? What is it? Because you've given specifics, and that's powerful. But I think we're looking at mood music more, aren't we? In the context of what's happened in 2016, it's more about the mood.
Well, certainly not in that particular case. You'd be asking people there to vote for basically killing 2 out of the 3 biggest employers in the constituency.
And all they have to do is keep repeating that. They just keep repeating that. The Conservative candidate keep repeating Trident, keep repeating nuclear power. Is he opposed to new build nuclear power stations?
Yes, he wrote an article in The Ecologist about 2 years ago. He's been notably quiet and he's done his usual thing and gone foggy on it since. But
as indeed he also has on Trident, hasn't he? I mean, I know historically he's diametrically opposed to it, but there have been suggestions we could keep the submarines but lose the missiles. That was my favourite.
If you were an elector in one of those areas, would you rely on that?
What would you do if you were advising him?
I'm not a Labour supporter, so you're asking the wrong person.
No. You can park your loyalties at the door, and in terms of effectiveness,
well, frankly, give up and go home.
Oh Lord above! What's Labour's official policy on Trident at the moment, Andy?
Somewhere between build it and get rid of it, and we've got a review going on, but it was supposed to have reported 4 months ago, and it's gone awful quiet.
Labour is winning and ready for a general election fight. I need some more positive voices. I think you'll allow me to suggest that you are not one of them.
Well, I don't see a great deal to be positive about.
Nor do most people, but I suppose we just need to try and find where he's getting his optimism
can
from.
I just lob one other thing in very quickly? You made some comments earlier about higher tax rates and so on.
Yes.
It's very questionable, for example, that the 45% rate actually raised any extra money.
Well, of course it is, because everybody moved their money, so they wouldn't have to pay it.
Precisely.
Yes, so what you do, you make it permanent, and then they won't be able to do that. It was just the fingers crossed, hopefully the Tories will come in and take it away. And they did, lo and behold. Tom is in Woolwich. Tom, what's going on?
Hello, James. First things first, a massive fan, me and the missus are.
What's the missus called?
Alex.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Good,
I'm sure she's listening.
Good man you got there. Right, Tom, what's on your mind?
I can't be positive, to be honest, like you want me to, but I'm a Labour fan.
Yes.
We both paid a membership now since Corbyn got in. But it's the things like your last caller just said about we've tried and that
was a double header. It was a beautiful pincer movement, wasn't it? This notion that you're going to have 2 massive employers in the actual constituency, and he is on the record as being opposed in a sense to both of them. I didn't know that.
I mean, the basics of him giving up Trident, I agree with. And less nuclear warheads and stuff, I completely agree with that. But when you get people losing their jobs, who are they going to vote for?
I don't know. What could he do? Is there anything he could do to sort of... I mean, you've already bought into the project in a way. You mentioned you've signed up as members.
There's no one else about.
Yeah.
You look at the Conservatives, Theresa May seems to be getting more right-wing. I don't know, Liberal Democrats are coming back a little bit, but I don't really know much about what they stand for, if I'm honest.
No.
I think these are the ones we have to put all our eggs in one basket, and I'd rather it be with Corbyn and maybe... more.
And that is what a Corbyn enthusiast sounds like. Well, I did that as well. Yeah, I mean, but look at the rest of them.
I'd love to be more
passionate,
positive.
Yeah,
I'd love to, but you look around and there's not much really to be positive about. He is the closest thing we've got to a Bernie Sanders, to someone like that who would stick up for the ordinary people, as you say. Without him, who is there?
Well, it's fascinating. I don't quite understand how it's happened, but then again, you could say that about most of the political developments of the last couple of the years. And Corbyn is by far from being the most worrying of them, but it is odd. You hear someone like Tom describing buying into this. It's the first time you've joined a political party, Tom, presumably?
Yeah. I'm 28 years. First time we've decided to.
And it was Corbyn that tempted you in. I think there's a huge, it's like this double, two wheels on the bike, if you will, at Trump road to power. One was to blame the foreigners for everything, which is very powerful historically, but the other was to blame the bosses, and it's that blaming the bosses narrative that Corbyn should be owning, isn't it? That, I presume, is what's drawn you to.
That's how we won us along with the capitalist, anti-capitalist thing and stuff like that.
You can't call it anti-capitalist, because capitalism has delivered security and prosperity on unprecedented levels, but it just needs to be rejigged slightly. It's as if...
Exactly. Maybe more the wrong, not just the 1%, maybe dish it out a bit. Sprinkled down effect.
It never sprinkles down, does it? It never trickles down. It all seems to go up. And that's blaming the bosses. But they turn that immediately in this country. They turn that immediately into bashing the bankers. Stop bashing the bankers. Stop bashing the bankers when there's a Muslim over there you could be blaming for all your problems. It's 26 after 12. Tom, thank you. Simon is in Bradford. Simon, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
We screamed out, we cried out for something different, didn't we? Everybody said we want something different, something refreshing, somebody real. We're sick of career politicians, slick, sleazy career politicians who'll say anything to get elected. Well, guess what? We got one.
Well, he is a career politician. He is a career politician.
Well, he is, but we wanted someone outside of the norm. Even the right-wing press said that prior to Jeremy coming along, and now he came along, and now we've got him. Everybody said, "Oh, well, no, we didn't think differently like that."
But isn't that because of his performance? I mean, this is where I get a little bit worried that I've sort of swallowed the poison myself. But it's his performance. It's not the press portrayal. I mean, look. How would you describe? I know I've said to everyone, "Don't talk about me. Talk about Jeremy Corbyn." Would you describe me as left wing or right wing?
Oh, certainly left wing, James.
And if I told you that the leader of the Labour Party won't come near me for love nor money to be interviewed, how would you react to that?
Oh, well, I know. I mean, I listen to you every day, so I absolutely know that. And I completely agree with what you say. And this is the problem with Jeremy Corbyn. Hey, I'm a supporter of his. I don't think he's going to get elected because he's not stepping up and he's not playing the game, James. That's the thing. It's like he's too cool to play the game. And you've got to play the game.
Isn't he just too rubbish at it? Isn't it more honest than that? He's tried to play the game with that picture on the train. He's just rubbish at it.
It might be that. It might be that he belongs in opposition.
And if I say to you he needs a Mandelson or a Campbell, then a lot of people go, that's the exact opposite of what we want. I mean, those are the architects of doom. But he does. He needs a Mandelson or a Campbell. He needs a genius strategist.
He does. You sometimes look at some of the people in the shadow cabinet and you just think, oh, come on. You're just not quite...
Yeah.
You're just not quite good enough. I like where they're coming from, and I like a lot of the politics, most of the politics I like, but they've got to play the game if they want to get elected. And you know what, James, I live in Bradford, traditionally, a Labour stronghold.
Yes.
But a lot of these ideas, they just don't float with your man in the pub.
No, he's like a polytechnic lecturer, isn't he? And they need he doesn't. It's not even a class issue, You can be posh, and it's what you talk about and how you talk, isn't it? That's the thing.
Completely, and he's just lacking a bit of credibility within his. Amongst his core vote, what should be his core vote, he's just lacking a bit of credibility. And hey, I like it. I'd have Jeremy Corbyn round at my house every day of the week. I like the guy.
Fair enough.
But part of me, I'd be saying, just come on, just play the game, step up, get involved. I mean, the referendum, it was terrible. I mean, God, you've talked about this a million times. It was awful. There's times. I don't know.
But again, this is where I get a little bit impatient with all the people who claim he's refreshing and honest and does things differently. Because I think his performance during the referendum campaign was duplicitous to the point of deceit. I think he wanted out. I think he still does want out, and I think the reason he wants out is so that they can circumvent EU rules regarding state ownership and compulsory renationalisation of things. But I could be wrong on that. So looking for a positive voice, 2 or 3 people who like the guy but don't think he's got a cat in hell's chance of winning a general election. Give me a call if you think he can win a general election, because I really want to hear your voice. And if you think I'm getting a bit out of my box and being a bit chippy and nippy with you, then just tell me and I'll stop. I just want to hear the arguments that say, of course he can win a general election, ... It's 12:30. I get this, okay? I think Jeremy Corbyn being unelectable is a reflection of our society, James, and its priorities. Under the Tories, the teachers have strike, doctors have strike, social care is in a worse state than when they inherited it, and we have a Prime Minister who has continuously voted against legislation that she comes out and now says she's in favour of. I think the biggest issue Corbyn has is the Parliamentary Labour Party, who have made it more and more difficult for him to gather any momentum as he is under constant pressure internally. I understand your thinking, I really do. I think you're wrong. I think it's actually so simple. I don't know what word to use. Charismatic, perhaps, is the most obvious. But I think what Donald Trump has taught us is that if you can fool most of the people most of the time. And what I would love to see is someone possessed of that ability to work a room who's actually telling the truth. And I don't know that Jeremy Corbyn is either of those things at the moment, but I am open to persuasion. Malcolm, I know you've been waiting longer, but I want to speak to Dan in Bedford first because he's here to stick up for Mr. Corbyn. I've got no shortage of people ready to stick the knife in, but Dan, do you think he can win a general election?
I think it's a big ask. You have to remember that with Labour Party
that's a no.
General election last year.
That's a no then.
Well, no, I think he can. I think if there was one in January, we wouldn't be favourites to win.
No.
In 2020, Fixed Term Parliament Act, I wouldn't bet against Labour winning next year because the Tories are split over Brexit. They have no chance of navigating Article 50 and Brexit successfully. They're going to go off the rails big time. And I believe that general elections are normally lost by governments
rather than won. But look at the absolutely unprecedented failure to perform in opposition. I mean, that text is right. All of these things that should be reasons to start throwing faggots on the fire for Theresa May. She's doing better than ever. Her popularity is higher than almost any Prime Minister in history at this point in a premiership.
Declining, though. If you look at how it's been tracking, her honeymoon period is coming...
when's Corbyn starting? When's his honeymoon period starting?
Well, that's the thing. From day one, a lot of the party tried to undermine and throw him out from day one in September last year, and we're in a situation now where...
Again, you make it sound a bit like Kremlinology. The reason that the Parliamentary Labour Party didn't get behind him is because they don't think he's got a cat in hell's chance of winning a general election, and they were kind of hoping he'd admit that before fighting one, and he's refused to. So it doesn't make them the villains of the piece. Arguably, you could portray him as the villain of the piece.
Because he has the mandate from the party.
But it's not a proper mandate. It's a manufactured mandate because of Ed Miliband's ludicrous changes to the membership rules.
Well, I think one member, one vote. I mean, we all pay subs, we all pay fees. I think we should all have a say in who's the leader. I'm interested to hear what...
But do you know what the equivalent... That's like saying the crowd should pick the football team, and you may well believe that. That's what Ed Miliband has introduced. I would rather Arsene Wenger picks the starting 11 than the residents of the North Stand. And the team... now that are playing on the pitch...
Arsene Wenger in the context of a political party.
Yeah, of course I am. I'm talking about who elects the leader.
The puppet master.
No, who elects the leader? Dan, stop talking a second, because I think the point you're missing is this. The Parliamentary Labour Party don't have faith in him because they think he's rubbish. It's no more complicated than that. Why would you want to lead a team? Why would you want to captain a team? I'll go back to a football analogy. When the other 10 members of the team think you're absolutely pants.
But the Labour Party isn't just the 10 members. It's not just the PLP. It's now the largest political party in Europe.
Which is why the analogy with the crowd, which is why the analogy with the North Stand at the Emirates works. It is essentially only the people that have paid for a season ticket get a vote on who the manager is. And then he hasn't got the support of the team. I hear you, but all I hear in your voice is just this sort of optimism. No, it's all their fault. I know this is going to happen. You don't honestly believe Jeremy Corbyn can win a general election. I don't believe you.
It depends on
no, I don't believe you.
If you're saying tomorrow, then no. If you're saying in 4 years, then I believe we can. I think this is going to be a one-term government. Do you think this government's going to be a success?
No, I don't. I think they're an absolute disaster. But it's about persuading the British public that this man can lead the country, and no one's going to be able to do that.
Well, in 3 months' time, we're going to be looking at inflation climbing to something like 4%. We've had flat wages.
Doesn't matter.
To the, people say it's the economy, don't they?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I think events are rapidly going to overtake.
Doesn't matter.
Overtake the government.
Doesn't matter.
What I actually thought, though, I've been listening to your previous few calls. I do want to pick up on a few points that people have raised.
Doesn't really work like that, I'm afraid. Not when I've got a full switchboard and when we've got an unfolding hijack situation in Malta, because I want to cross live now to Jürgen Balzan, who is a Malta Today reporter. Well, take it from the top, Jürgen. What do we know?
From what we know from our reporters who are on site, some passengers are to be released soon. It seems that there are 28 women and 1 toddler on board the plane who are going to be released very shortly. But we have no news yet of what the hijackers are demanding or why they have hijacked the plane.
How many people are on board, including the 28 that are set to be released?
So in total, it's 111 passengers and 7 members of the crew. So it's 118 people on board in total.
And the airport now is in complete lockdown. No flights in or out as this situation continues.
Well, at the moment, a number of flights have been diverted to Sicily. However, we are also informed that flights leaving Rome and other capital cities in Europe are planning to land in Malta as normal. However, the Malta International Airport is obviously surrounded by security forces and people negotiating with the hijackers at the moment.
I hear you. Two hijackers, it's believed.
It is believed to be 2 hijackers, and from government sources, we have been told that there are no concrete demands for the time being, and the woman and 1 child are being released as we are speaking, it seems.
Okay, that's, I suppose, something to be grateful for. Jürgen Balzan live from Malta, where that unfolding hijack situation, as you've just heard, is developing, looking for some signs of those 28 passengers, women and a small child reportedly being released. About 2 hours now that the plane has been on the tarmac. Rest assured, any more details I'll bring to you as soon as I get them. Interested in Corbyn. It could get. I feel bad. It shouldn't get ill-tempered, but it's a bit brick wally. How is he going to win? How is he going to cut through? How is he going to somehow harness? A few of you are saying after Brexit and Trump, how can you say with any certainty that it won't be Corbyn next? Because he kind of flies in the face of the impulses and the appetites that drove the success of Brexit and Trump. If you feel that they're similar, I know an awful lot of people who voted to leave the European Union are furious at the suggestion that they're part of a project or part of a movement that might also have delivered Donald Trump. But I do see similarities. I do see links, and I don't see Corbyn as being a beneficiary of those links or of those movements. Malcolm is in Bodmin. Malcolm, what's going on?
Hello, James.
Hello, mate.
I honestly believe that for the first time in my lifetime, I'm 56 years of age.
Yes.
The Tory press, the media will not be needed for the Tories to win the next election, because they're not going to win. Now, further to that, there could have been someone from the Labour Party, the moderate side of things, who could have stood.
But that's business as usual. There is a sort of, he does, when I say he flies in the face of the Trump Brexit mood music, he doesn't in one very real sense. He is very different to anything that's gone before.
But no, James, the point is, right, there was nobody of any standing left in the Labour Party who could stand against him, because they all knew, because of the way the party membership works, the way the leader is elected, there was literally nothing they could do. The Labour Party will lose the next election, because out of 18 million people, you've got maybe 600,000 members of whatever the wing is.
Yeah.
What are they called?
Momentum.
Momentum.
Yeah.
Right. They are the voice of the party. They are all over the media. They run the party. But that's not what votes Labour into power. It's the people out there in their houses, in their homes, all over Britain. And honestly, James, the right-wing media will not be necessary in the next election, because the people...
By which, when you say that, you mean that if he did somehow manage to get a blame the bosses narrative going, historically it would be shut down immediately by what you describe, and I routinely describe as the right-wing media, but on this occasion it won't even be necessary, because he won't get the narrative going. He won't get the blame the bosses message out there, effectively.
It isn't even as complicated as that, James. The people in Britain, people who work every day, they look at the man, and he is a nice man. There is no question. He wouldn't harm anybody.
Well, I'll take your word for that. I don't know that that's true, but I'll take your word for it.
No, but James, people, they don't want him as their leader. I don't want him as my leader, and I'm a Labour man all my life. But I want someone who leads us, who can make everybody as happy as is possible, to make everybody happy.
Yeah, and someone who puts a bit of fire in your belly as well, Malcolm. Someone who'll stand up and make a speech that's got you cheering at the television. Am I right?
Well,
no.
James, that's no.
Can we do that again? When I go, am I right, like that, you're supposed to go, hell yeah.
Well, hell yes, James, but
thank you.
It's all about making people believe that whoever is in charge will make things.
But that's what I mean by fire in the belly and cheering at the television. Someone who seems to have a project that's not only sellable but also really attractive. I just sort of a Nye Bevan or someone like that. But I'm going back too far in time. 12:43 is the time, and there's something in Malcolm's voice then. I am a lifelong Labour supporter and I don't want him to be the leader. Otto's been in touch, so Jeremy Corbyn is stuck in the same groove and has been for 30 years. He's like a status quo riff in political form. I think that's sort of like the same 4 chords or the same 3 chords. Nigel is in Brighouse in West Yorkshire. Nigel, what would you like to say?
Good afternoon to you, James. Nice to talk to you.
Likewise, Nigel. What's on your mind?
Just keep hold of your chair. You'll probably laugh at me what I'm going to say.
Go on.
I think personally that the Conservatives don't want to win the next election. And I'll tell you why I say that.
Go on.
Because they have a record in general, and all Corbyn's saying, I watched parliamentary, I'm a Labour supporter like that last chat all my life, I'm 60.
Yeah.
Wouldn't vary anywhere. So when you sign up for Labour, rightly or wrongly, you are signing up to the left of the political sector. You're also signing up to a socialist method in working. That's how we've always done it, right?
Yes.
Now, what happens is this Conservative government are like, in biblical terms, like Pontius Pilate. For the simple reason is that they're going to make they're doing. I went to an RMT meeting the other day. We talked about this southern strike, what's going on down there, and they're doing exactly what they did with the miners. Exactly, they're going to upset everybody as much as they can. Right? They've got Brexit coming up, and one more thing you might not know: this £45 business where they're saying they're going to save on car insurance. Did you know there's a limit on how much you can claim under £5,000 for personal injuries? A tax what nobody knows about.
No, you've lost me there. I'll take your word for it. You sound like a well-informed man.
Well, what I'm saying is, Corbyn's just saying, because what these people are coming on, right, is they're disregarding the young vote. Because on Facebook, you're probably aware of Facebook, I see you ranting on Facebook, which is quite active, quite interesting.
Thanks, mate.
They actually say a lot
25 million. I've seen you ranting on Facebook. 25 million in the last 9 months, Nigel.
Well, there you go. What I'm saying to you, then, you should know as well as I do that there's a lot of young people who are supporting him. Now, yes, I agree with that chap says 600,000 members, right? They voted him in. This parliamentary government party, what we've got, rightly or wrongly, the one thing the Tories never do, and I have to take my hat right off to them, they never, ever, ever don't toe the party line in public, right? And what's gone wrong here, you've got people in the parliamentary party who are voted in, let's get this right, by these so-called members who don't know what they're doing here, and then they should be supporting Jeremy Corbyn. They've had 2 votes to try and kick him out. They've lost in a massive way. Now they've got
only one to kick him out. Well, there's one. He won the first one to get in, and then the second one was an attempt to kick him out. So it's not.
I'm sorry about that. What I'm trying to say. If they don't want to be part of the party, call a by-election. Go under an independent. No,
but they, you know that they would argue with you on that and say that it's our Labour Party. They would say it's the Labour Party of Jeremy Corbyn is not the Labour Party of the massive majority of MPs elected to represent Labour constituencies.
What you say there, James, is perfectly true. But let's take it a bit further outside Westminster.
Yes.
All these younger people, I've listened to you regularly on about the Brexit situation. All these youngsters who voted to stay in. Now, there's a lot of youngsters want Corbyn in.
But they're less likely to vote, and B, there aren't that...
How do you know? You can't assume...
No, historically they're less likely to vote.
Yeah, but you cannot assume. You're an intelligent chap, you are.
Thanks.
You can't assume. You cannot assume.
No, of course you can't predict that they're not going to vote. All I can say is that historically they are less likely to vote. And you know as well as I do, in fact, you're better than I do listening to you, Nigel, that a lot of the Conservative appeal increases the older you get. So that's why they're doing the pensioners will be the very, very last to suffer. And I think the thing you refer to, Incorrigible FCA, has just been in touch, and I need to do a bit of swatting up on this one because it is a gap in my knowledge. It's the insurance premium tax from Philip Hammond's budget statement. I'll have a look at that. No, good Lord, that's nearly it for the year. Nigel, thank you for the kind words. 0345. Actually, why am I giving out the phone number? You won't get through. It's 10 to 1 already. That's almost it for the year. I just want to introduce you to some younger voices before we go. A few more calls as well on the way about Jeremy Corbyn. I'm sorry. I've tried, but I can't. I've tried. When people tell me they think he can win a general election, it just does not sound plausible to me. I always thought that the big political shocks of 2016 were plausible. If you spend as much time facing down the kind of race-based hatred that has swept Donald Trump into the White House as I do, then you will not be shocked by what's happened. Once you allow it, they called it political correctness, but once you take the lid off that bile that bubbles under the surface of society all the time and always bubbles more in times of economic crisis or indeed a refugee crisis, it was not impossible to see that happening, but I can't see what it is that is going to propel Corbyn to power. Maybe you can tell me. Before that, though, last week or a couple of weeks ago, I invited 2 students from the Reach Academy in Feltham into the studio because they'd performed particularly well in some debating competition at their school. Their teacher got in touch, and I thought it'd be nice to give them the old Warholian 15 minutes. So the debate that they were having was whether or not London had become a city for the rich, and this is how things unfolded. Time now for something of a departure. You will, if you're kind enough to listen to the programme on a regular basis, be aware that I think all children should be encouraged to learn the skills of debating, but it's something that not every school or teacher agrees with. Thankfully, the Reach Academy in Feltham and their Year 8 teacher, Georgie Johnson, does agree with me, which is why she has been encouraging her class to do some good old-fashioned debating. And I'm delighted to welcome into the studio my Reach Academy's 2 best performers during their recent debate. James and Hafsa are with me now. The motion before the House, ladies and gentlemen, is that London is a city only for the rich. And so now to propose the motion for the government that London is a city which just favours the rich, I invite James Rose to address the nation.
As I wandered down the streets of our nation, I realised the majestic ground we live upon is truly multicultural. From what I've seen, I realised the society we live in brings people from many backgrounds together. Even though there are many positive aspects of London, one group of society is being neglected for all the hard-working people out there. We working class are rebellious and strong. We have never slipped a chance of success. In all of human history, we working class have proven who we truly are. We were judged by our clothes, we were judged by our speech, we were judged by the way we were brought up. Despite this, we working class will not be threatened. Among us have risen up to be the greatest people who have lived on this planet. William Blake, Charles Dickens and Stephen King. It is with great regret that now only the rich can be successful. House prices are pushing people out of London. People who worked here for most of their lives can't afford to stay in the capital any longer. Something must change. As a nation, we will never surrender. We will fight for what is right. From the bottom of my heart, I urge the government to listen to the voices of the working class and hear their concerns. Should London be a place where the rich can just thrive?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, to challenge the motion that London is at the moment just a place which favours the rich, I invite you to join me in welcoming Miss Hafsa Abdullahi.
Although in the past in London, the rich and only the rich could easily secure a respectable job, a good education and a comfortable home, today every single person can access those opportunities. They don't have to risk finger-chopping jobs in Victorian factories to provide themselves with a decent home, education or healthcare. In the 21st century, there are suitable homes for those who have a decent job, nothing fancy. I learned that during the Victorian times, if you were a cleaner, you couldn't afford a home. Is that the same today? I think not. Similarly, today all people have the right to get free education, unlike in the past when only those who could pay for it received a good quality education. Even if you're an adult who was deprived of a good education, you can still go to adult education classes or university. What about jobs? In the past, the poor were forced to do back-breaking, dangerous work in factories which left them deformed. However, now the poor aren't regularly threatened with these safety hazards. In a Victorian newspaper that I read in a history lesson, I saw the poor working in unsafe conditions. Is that the same today? In the 19th century, free healthcare was not an option for the poor. All those who were ill and suffering were left to die. 75% of the population could not get healthcare, which meant only a small population in London could. Conversely, in the 21st century, the population has boomed due to free healthcare. Every UK citizen in London has the privilege of healthcare, not just the rich. Overall, I have proved the statement, London is only for the rich, is not accurate. In the past, housing, education, healthcare and jobs were only easily accessed by the rich. However, now London has transformed for the better and champions the needs of the less fortunate.
Wow. Well, I don't have to make a decision, do I? I don't actually have to choose a winner on this. That was lovely. There was sort of slightly fresher voices than usual, perhaps, on the programme. Both of them from Hafsa and James from the Reach Academy in Felton. They'll be on their school hollybobs at the moment, but I hope they tuned in. We did give them a heads up, didn't we, that we were going to be doing this today? So happy Christmas to you both and to your teacher, Georgie. A couple more calls, and then Gary's just suggested I end the year with a Jerry Springer style final thought. Mate, I just do 3 hours a day of Jerry Springer style final thoughts. I think people have probably suffered enough. Where are we going? Go find a Corbyn supporter in Blackheath. Ed's there. Ed, make it sing. Sell me the idea.
I thought those two talks were fantastic.
Lovely, weren't they?
The reason I've been a Labour member since '74 and I'm a Corbyn supporter. He has actually sort of crossed the bridge into honesty, and I'm not sort of having a dig at journalists, but I think because journalists have to deal with many politicians who are frankly not honest, they find it difficult. They can't see the swamp for the.
But he never. It's not that. I promise you. It might be for other journalists, but it's not my problem. My problem is I don't know what he stands for.
No, okay. Well, I'll tell you what I think he stands for.
Yeah.
My ward has trebled its membership since Corbyn became elected.
Yeah, but this is like Michael Foot territory.
Yeah, okay. But I think he represents the view that we achieve far more together than we can apart, and people believe it when he says it. Now, how long it will take the body... I mean, you couldn't possibly... I mean, you know the other quotation where most politicians say, what can the electorate do for me, rather than what can I do for the electorate? He does represent
I don't think he does. Look, I completely respect that you believe that he does, but if I ask you to point just at one really big proof of that belief, what would you point at?
I think he's honest. You
can't just keep saying that you think he's honest. Prove to me that he represents what you've just described. What is it he's said that makes you think he...
Okay, I'll tell you what he said.
Go on then.
He's opposed to an arms race. He's opposed to... He wants peace...
Who's in favour of an arms race, apart from Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin?
Well, I mean, maybe some of the Tory party...
maybe some of the Tory party. It's just not... oh, mate.
And the other thing is... Can I just mention the other thing?
No, you can't.
Sorry.
No, you're out. Christmas is over. What do you mean Christmas is over? Christmas hasn't even started yet. The show is over. Play the Pipes of Peace. That's how we should have ended the show. Caroline, make a note, will you? Next year, I want to end the show. I want to end the year together with the Pipes of Peace by Paul McCartney, one of his most underrated tracks. Verily, the sound of Christmas. Paul in Hackney, I haven't got time to talk to you. I'm so sorry. Or to Fess or Matthew or Ellis up in Cheshire, Ryan in Newquay, all over the country. Fred down in Portsmouth. I've had a wonderful year. Thank you so much for spending so much of it with me, if indeed you have. It's been fascinating on a professional level. It's been quite remarkable. Not so good for the soul, obviously, but incredible for the career, and I never forget why. And I'm very grateful to you. I'll end with this quote here. Absolutely useless in front of the camera, no charisma and no chance. I did think initially that might have been a review of my Newsnight performances, but it is in reference to Jeremy Corbyn. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. Thank you so much for all the cards and presents, especially Alessandro for sending the gifts for my girls. I'll see you on January the 3rd.